I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that the title of tonight's show is It's Over. And that is because on Monday, we are having a full moon at 10 degrees of Scorpio, and Jupiter is in the sign as well. And Scorpio it's a fixed financial sign, so something that is over could have something to do with financial matters, but also Scorpio rules justice and survival, and it rules healing because it's a water sign. And so under a full moon, we know that the sun opposes the moon. So the full moon at 10 degrees of Scorpio, along with Jupiter in the sign, are both being opposed by the sun at 10 degrees of Taurus. And since whenever the sun and the moon oppose or square each other, it can indicate indecision or confusion. And since these planets are in financial signs, there could be a little indecision or confusion that you are undergoing, and it could be about your investments, or it could be about your wages, or your retirement income, or it could be about a credit, particularly the higher cost of credit, or interest rates going up, or it could be about loans, or debts, or taxes, or inheritance, or insurance costs, or it could be about grants or money coming in from any other source, such as your employer or your family or your friends. So there could be a sense of being undecided about those financial matters in one way or another. But this is a time when the sign of Scorpio is very strong, not just because Jupiter is in the sign as well, but because the rulers of Scorpio, Mars and Pluto, are so tightly conjuncting each other right now. They are at 21 degrees and at 23 degrees of Capricorn, a very stern sign that rules people in top management in large corporations or government agencies. And it rules rewards earned the hard way over a long period of time. So it rules your career and it rules your reputation. But Mars and Pluto are very close together and tightly conjunct, which means they could sort of be on the warpath right now, because a conjunction heightens the power of both planets. And then Saturn is in Capricorn as well. These three planets are all sextiling the full moon and Jupiter in Scorpio, and these three planets are sextiling Neptune in Pisces as well, and they are being trined by the sun in Taurus. So the three planets in Scorpio are in Capricorn, but particularly Mars and Pluto, can represent a challenge, and that is because they are squaring Mercury and Uranus, the third malefic planet, at 29 degrees of Aries. So there is the possibility that there can be an idea that some sacrifices must be made in order to ensure growth, and that's because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the planet of sacrifice and time. But it can also mean, since these planets are so powerful in Capricorn and the full moon is sextiling them, but since they are squaring the planets in Aries, it can mean that a new beginning is what's over. And a new beginning could be over because the funding is cut. And so there could be budget cuts. And that is why whatever is over may have something to do with justice finally being done at last. Remember, the full moon is in Scorpio, and that's what it rules. Or it can indicate some sort of budget cuts to the point where a new beginning is stopped because its funding is cut. And so that simply means that we've got to understand that, you know, there is a possibility of budget cuts in a large corporation or a change in policy by a government agency, because there's never enough money to go around for everything, and they may want to take the money from one project and put it into something else where the rewards could serve more people. And that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? So that would actually turn out to be a good idea. So where could these savings be if a budget or if a new beginning is canceled or budgets are cut? Well, since the moon and Jupiter are in Scorpio and they are being trine beautifully by Neptune in Pisces, there is the possibility that there could be additional funds for some sort of justice to be done or for healing. And that is because Scorpio is a water sign and all the water signs rule healing. And in fact, since Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Mars rules sharp instruments, there can be, and it rules the medical field, there can be some extra money around to help people who need healing, either through surgery or through a medical intervention, or even some sort of help with other behavioral problems. So that could serve a lot of people as well, particularly since Pisces rules drugs. And so there could be some help for people who are dependent on those things. Or today, the sun, or the Venus, is at 7 degrees of Gemini. And that is the exact degree of the United States ascendant in the Americas chart. And Venus is an absolutely excellent planet. So it can be that extra money that is saved by cutting a budget somewhere else could be spent on the things that Gemini rules. And Gemini rules transportation because Gemini rules short journeys. So it could be spent on highways or bridges or tunnels that would benefit everybody. Or since Gemini rules youth, it could be spent on extra education and rehabilitation for young people. Well, that's a good idea. Or since Gemini rules short forms of communication and education, it could be spent on vocational programs for a lot of people so that they can increase their skills and get better jobs. That would be good too. So I do think something is over, but I think what's really over is the fast track days. In other words, those days when you could just have a friend get you in somewhere. And so we are entering a new era of accountability and good old-fashioned work ethics and having to persevere and being willing to make sacrifices for long-term rewards. So the people who used to get a job because they were a friend of somebody else and they could keep that job even perhaps at a high salary, not because they had the skills, but just because they had the connections, those days are over. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because the people who want to improve their skills and really display their talent should be getting promotions and they should be getting paid more, and that could be you. So if something is over, I hope you don't lament it, because it could mean that something better is on its way. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, for you, there is a strong possibility something is over now. And that is because, as I explained, Mars and Pluto, which are conjuncting, and Mars is your own ruler, are squaring Mercury and that Uranus, which is at 29 degrees of Aries, and Saturn in Capricorn is squaring that as well. And so there could be an organization that you belong to, Aries, that is going through some sort of budget cuts. Even if you don't find that out now, you may find that out a little bit later, perhaps by late spring or early summer. And so if something is really over right now, Aries, remember, since your sign does rule new beginnings, that could be music to your ears, because you could turn right around and do what you do best, which is start over somewhere else. And I think you would be successful at that. So better things could be awaiting you, even if something is over. And if it isn't over now, it's coming up, Aries. And yet I don't think you are going to feel too bad about it, because my aunt always said, when one door closes, another one will open. And that is the door that could be the door to better opportunities for you. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is a time when I think that you have to be very, very careful and not take a gamble with money in any way. And that's because you'd lose, Taurus. And the reason why is that the sun is in your sign, yes, and it's being beautifully trined by Saturn, Mars, and Pluto in Capricorn. So you could have a lot of backup, but that backup, or your reliance on very steady things is what you should be paying attention to, because the sun in your sign is being strongly opposed on Monday by that full moon and Jupiter in Scorpio. And what that means, Taurus, for you is that there's bills to pay, or there can be higher taxes or the cost of credit, and you can be going through a period now of confusion or indecision about some sort of financial matter. And what I advise you to do is stick to a steady plan. Stick to an original plan. Go back to the basics. They will really pay off for you, Taurus. But if you take a gamble, I guarantee you'll lose. And the reason why is that Leo rules gambling, and your sign is squaring Leo, and Jupiter and the full moon in Scorpio are also squaring Leo. Nobody should gamble on anything right now. So if something comes to an end behind the scenes, there might be a silver lining in that, Taurus. Maybe it's meant to be, and maybe that's what could help you stay sort of on the straight and narrow, which is where you belong. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, lucky you, Venus is in your sign. In fact, it's at that wonderful 7th degree in your sign, which is the exact degree of the United States ascendant in their chart. And so you could be a little more popular than you realize right now, Gemini, or you could be in the mood for love. And you really should get out and socialize right now, because those planets in Aries, which are quite vulnerable right now and subject to be stopped, a new beginning could be stopped right now due to lack of funding. Still, those planets, Mercury, your own ruler, and Uranus are sextiling your sun, and the sun is in Taurus right behind your sun sign. So you could have your eyes on something a little bit pricey behind the scenes that you'd like to pay for if you had the money. But that is a question that all of us have to be careful about. We can't gamble, and you mustn't allow yourself to get your budget to get too stretched, because there is the possibility of budget cuts coming up. And that could be for good reasons, but they could still affect a lot of people. So Gemini, right now, I hope you bask in your popularity, but at the same time, you should stick to the things you do well, which is communication and affecting some sort of easy transition or change, because that's very well favored for you right now. You could do something that would be so easy that's just in your own backyard or in your neighborhood right now that you should really give it a try. You'd be successful, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when I think there certainly can be a silver lining for you, because, oh boy, that full moon and Jupiter in Scorpio on Monday, which represents something that's over or justice that is going to be done at last, are both trining your sun sign, and Neptune in Pisces is also trining your sun sign. Oh, that can be good for you, Cancer, because those heavy-duty planets in Capricorn, Saturn, Mars, and Pluto, are opposing your sun sign, and of course Mercury and Uranus in Aries are squaring it. So you can be affected by budget cuts or other people that are having to make changes because of some sort of cancellation. And so the good news is that I don't think you'll be affected financially, because you have some backup, financial backup somewhere, Cancer, and you could draw on that if you wanted to. And besides, if justice is going to be done at last, you could know a whole lot more about that from sources behind the scenes than people realize, and you could be rather happy about that. There's also the possibility with Venus and Gemini right behind your sun sign that you may have the opportunity to go from full-time to part-time. I don't think that would bother you at all. Or you may want to suddenly have some free time to take a short trip, and that would work out well too, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when you in particular should not take a gamble with anything, and that's because your sign does rule gambling. And yes, Mercury and Uranus in Aries are trining your sun, but they are beleaguered and cannot be of much help to you. And in fact, they could represent the cancellation of a new beginning because the funding dries up or because of policy changes. And so, Leo, in a way, that's a blessing to you because it simply means that you could concentrate a little bit more on being successful right where you are. And that is because the sun in Taurus is squaring your sun. So something is way too expensive for you, Leo, and you mustn't take a gamble with spending a lot of money right now. You would lose. And then that full moon and Jupiter in Scorpio are also squaring your sun, which means you too have bills to pay. And that is why you don't need to expand right now or gamble. You need to cut your costs if you can and not borrow money either. In other words, going into debt would not be a good idea, Leo. And so you really could do pretty well if you just stayed where you were right now. There is a solar eclipse in your sign in August. Maybe that would be a better time to make a change. But right now, if you stick in your own backyard, that could do you a world of good. And that's because Venus in Gemini is sextiling your sun. You could be more popular if you just stayed where you were, Leo. So I hope you think about that. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when I think that you can be very effective, particularly at work, or your career could be enhanced right now. And that is because Jupiter and the full moon in Scorpio are sextiling your sun, so it's not going to bother you at all if justice is done. You could be in favor of that. And there could be more money coming your way. And the sun in Taurus is trining your sun, and Saturn, Mars, and Pluto in Capricorn are also trining your sun. And since there are 4 planets in Earth signs, and yours is an Earth sign, you can just be very effective at the things you do best, which is problem solving, working hard, analyzing details, and being very dependable and reliable. And because your sign rules finishing, you can be really good at sort of picking up the pieces from other people and finishing things, and being well regarded for that, Virgo. The thing that can bother you a little bit is relationships, and that is because Venus in Gemini is squaring your sun and Neptune in Pisces is opposing your sun. So you just don't know who to believe right now, and that simply means that there can be people, particularly younger people, that may not be agreeing with all of your cool logic right now, Virgo. So you're going to have to, if you're a little bit disappointed in relationships, if I were you, I'd just bide my time and work a little harder, because that will give you a sense of self-satisfaction. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, it's wonderful that Venus is in Gemini because it is beautifully trining your sun. And that means that you could certainly benefit from some sort of partnership or a temporary project that you could work on with somebody else, or by taking a short trip, or some sort of training session where you can update your skills and maybe improve your prospects for a promotion or a better job. So you could take advantage of that and do that, Libra. But there is also the possibility of some sort of new beginning that somebody else wants to make that either is going to take off quite suddenly, or they can be wanting to cancel out on that because of lack of funding. If I were you, I wouldn't argue with anybody right now. You don't need to, Libra. I think you know what you want, and you've got some backup from your own ruler, Venus in Gemini. So I think that you could suggest a temporary solution, or else you could pretty much just stick to what you think is the right thing to do, because your sign does rule balance and peace. So you would find a peaceful way out of some predicament. And that would be good, because Saturn, Mars, and Pluto are squaring your sun. And so, you know, you may not want to be businesslike, but I think you're going to have to, because everybody can be influenced in one way or another by justice being done, which wouldn't bother you at all, or by budget cuts of some sort. And so, and yet you could still find other people that would be quite agreeable with you right now, and that's why you could make an easy transition or change or some sort of switch right now that would bring you greater happiness. So I hope you try that. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, The full moon on Monday is in your sign along with Jupiter. There's going to be plenty of light on you in the coming week. And that is why I hope you're being at your best, Scorpio. Neptune in Pisces is trining your sun, and your rulers, Mars and Pluto, which really mean business right now, and Saturn in Capricorn, are all sextiling your sun. And they're being trined by the sun in Taurus. So yes, the sun is opposing the moon and Jupiter in your sign, but your sign is really well backed up, and actually so is the sun. And so if there is any kind of confusion or indecision about money, I think if you went behind the scenes and talked to people quietly and got your questions answered all on your own, you would be able to find out exactly what's going on, and you would perhaps be able to come to a better decision about what you want or what you want to do in your future. Because remember, something is really over. It's over for all of us in one way or another, but that is simply so that something better can be coming along that can help more people or can produce a greater good. And so if you are subject to some sort of review that could straighten out an injustice, that's what you could be facing. But at the same time, if there are budget cuts, they may not hurt you too badly, Scorpio, because you may have some resources behind the scenes that could help you out instead. So this is a period of time, you're coming into a period of time that is sort of an eye-opener for you. And you will have to face things, and the reason why is they cannot really be hidden any longer. And that's why you'll just have to look at things right now very clearly, because other people are looking at you very clearly as well. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarius? Well, Sagittarius, you could certainly be wanting to move forward. That is because Uranus is at that 29th degree of Aries, and that's the planet of sudden change in the sign of new beginnings. And Mercury is there as well. So at any time you could get a sudden word about a new beginning. But should you jump on it, Sagittarius? I think you had best hesitate, not because you don't want to do something, but because you have to think much more seriously about money right now. And the reason why is that full moon in Scorpio is right behind your sun sign, and so is Jupiter. And that means you could want to go forward with something that could make a lot of money right now. But the problem is that you have to consider serious consequences of what would happen to that money if something went wrong. And there is the possibility, with so many strong planets right ahead of your sun sign, Saturn, Mars, and Pluto, squaring those planets in Aries, that this may not be the time for you to jump into something. And the reason why is that the funding could be cut. Or that can be that there's a lot of justice that's about to be done. And I don't think it's sort of coming too much your way unless you have been really doing something different behind the scenes. But there are a lot of other people to consider right now, Sagittarius, and Venus in Gemini is opposing your sun sign. There is the possibility that some friends could leave. And you know, what would happen if you were just left holding the bag? There's too many intangibles and indecision and confusion right now in financial matters that I don't think you should make a jump at this time. Sort of wait it out if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time when I think that you are going to be very practical about business matters and about your career. And you are sort of in the driver's seat right now, Capricorn, because Saturn and Mars and Pluto are in your sign. Those are the three strongest planets in the heavens right now. And the sun in Taurus is trining them, and the full moon in Scorpio and Jupiter are sextiling them. That's why I think that this is actually a pretty good time for you to decide what you want to do in the long run. That doesn't mean that you make a jump at the moment, but it does mean that I think you're getting very close to being fully prepared for it. And there may be only one or two more steps that you need to take in order to sort of be fully operational and be able to go forward. At the same time, although I don't think that you should that you should be afraid of making a new start. There can be other people whose new starts are stopped due to lack of funding. But I don't think that you have lack of funding. I think you can afford what you want to do. You just need to maybe wind something up or finish one or two more things up, and then you will really be ready to go forward and be very successful. So congratulations. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time when, just like Leo, you should not gamble on anything. And that's because that sun in Taurus is squaring your sun sign, and the full moon on Monday, along with Jupiter in Scorpio, are also squaring your sun sign. So there is definitely a financial matter that can be quite challenging to you right now, Aquarius. And so it's wonderful that Venus is now in Gemini, because it can bring you the opportunity to make an amicable legal settlement if you have to, which I think you should do. And you should also try to be very fair about it, Aquarius. And this is the time for you to settle some long-standing financial matter that hasn't really been handled as well as it could be. And that is why, with help from a good legal counselor or from friends, you need to settle it. And the reason why is that this is about as good as it gets. These planets and financial signs are squaring your sun sign, and they are opposing each other. But the full moon lunar eclipse in your sign on July 27th is much more harshly aspected than the aspects that you're facing right now. So if you put off something when you have a chance to settle it, you would really regret that by July. And that's why I'm hoping you just move forward right now and be fair and honest and settle something if you can, because something's over right now, Aquarius. If you don't want to face that, it would be a mistake, because now is a better time for you to settle it. What does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is simply a time when I think that, you have to be a little bit careful, more careful in your relationships, because yes, that full moon and Jupiter in Scorpio are trining your sun, which can mean there can be some more money coming your way, Pisces. Well, that's always good. But at the same time, Venus is in Gemini squaring Neptune in your sign. And it can be that there are a few people that are sort of painting blue sky right now and not quite telling you the whole truth. And you've got to test people right now, Pisces, because they may be wanting to use you. And you need to find that out before you sort of spread your good fortune around. So I would be a little bit cautious right now if I were you, Pisces. And if you are enjoying justice that's finally getting done, or you are enjoying some more money coming your way, why don't you just be real quiet and keep it to yourself? Okay, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show and you can read our blog and hear our podcast on our website, starborninstitute.org.